the month of Av, in memory of Yonah's grandfather Joseph Ehrenfeld Yosef ben Shmuel Aaron Zichron Livracha. We hope then in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshama will have an Aliyah and the family a Nechama. And Abba said, with that, let's begin the new parak. Kol ha'asurin l'gabe mizbeach asurin b'chol shem. So it's an interesting idea. Any animal that cannot be offered up on the mizbeach, and we'll discuss a listing of those animals. For example, if they get mixed in with other permitted animals, ultimately, again, they prevent the entire herd from being offered up as a carbon. Okay? So, yeah, even though normally we say bittul, there's a concept of bittul, a nullification, whether it's bittul barov, bittul b'shishim, whatever it might be. Nevertheless, again, apparently when it comes to sacrificial animals, if you have one prohibited animal which gets mixed up in a group of permitted animals, the presence of the prohibited animal prevents you from offering any of the animals in the flock. Rashi says over here, afilu nis'arva be'echad be'elef, even if it's 1 in 1,000, right? 1,000 permitted animals to one prohibited animal, nevertheless, kulan asur l'mizbeach im eno nikar. Ultimately, again, if you cannot point out, if you cannot identify which is the prohibited animal, all of the animals remain prohibited. So the Gemara says, for example, harova v'hanirva, an animal that sodomized the person or was sodomized; hamuktzah, an animal set aside for avodah zarah; ne'evat, an animal that was worshipped for avodah zarah; esnan, an animal given to a harlot as payment for her services; umechir, a behemoth that was sold for a dog; kilayim, an animal that is a result of crossbreeding; treifa, as we remember, treifa, and again, animal with some type of injury that is fatal; the yotzei dofen, a C-section born animal, because we'll remember again, an animal that is a yotzei dofen is not fit for sacrificial uses. So we'll say, so this is just an example, this is just a list of types of animals that are asr l'gabe mizbeach. So if you have a situation where one of these types of animals gets mixed in with a larger herd, so halacha l'maisa, again, halacha l'maisa, it would prohibit the entire herd from being offered. So the Gemara says, Eizuhu muktzah, what's an example of muktzah? Hamuktzah la'avodos kochavim. So ultimately, this is an animal that is set aside for idolatry. Hu aser, the animal itself, just by merely being designated, ultimately, again, for idolatry, cannot be used for sacrificial service. Umash sha'alav mutter, right? But that which is on it is mutter. So it's actually very interesting. So if you have an animal that was set aside for idolatry, the act of being set aside for idolatry is enough to preclude you from being used as a carbon. But let's say there was something on top of the animal. Right? There was something on top of the animal. So let's say whatever it is, the animal has some type of jewelry or adornment or garment. That accessory that's on top of the animal ultimately what? Does not become prohibited. Ve'izuhu an ne'evad. And I will say, what's the example ultimately again of the animal which is ne'evad, the animal which was worshipped? Kol sha'ovdin oso. This is any animal actively worshipped for idolatry purposes. In that case, hu umasha alav aser. We'll say in the case of ne'evad, not only is the animal aser, but what? Any accessory of the animal becomes aser as well. V'zeh mutter ba'achilo. But we'll say, interestingly enough, what the Mishnah seems to be saying is what? That both the animal that is muktzah as well as the animal that is ne'evad, if they were shechted, they become permitted for consumption. Good. So we'll say now we analyze. Amar Osrin b'chol shehin dila batli baruba. So we'll say, what does it mean when it says that if any of these animals which cannot be offered up as a carbon get mixed in with a group of other animals, that they are not batal? So of course, again, they aser the herd dila batli baruba. B'pashtos, what that means is they're not batal barov. Okay, that's the Mishnah's teaching me. Under normal circumstances, there's a concept of rov, and also remember again, we like to think about bittul like bittul b'shishim, but remember again, biblical bittul, right? Biblical bittul is literally bittul barov, right? Majority, a simple majority, ultimately again allows for the prohibited substance to become permitted. So Tanina, the Gemara said, well, 1 second, why do I need the Mishnah to teach me this? We already learned this once before. Kolekdation shenis arvu bechatos mesos. Now I will say, so the wording over here is going to be a little bit intriguing. Kol hekdeshin, anything that is kodesh that got mixed up with other chataos mesos. So let's remember again, chataos mesos is any type of chatos which cannot be offered and is therefore left to die. The paradigmatic example of that is a chatas whose owner achieved atonement with another carbon, or as we saw before, a chatas whose owner dies. Right? So those are chatos that cannot be offered and therefore they're left to die. It sounds like what the case over here is as follows. If I have another sacrificial animal that gets mixed up in the group of chatos that are left to die, or b'shahaniskal, or with a shahaniskal, we'll say shahaniskal is an ox that is put to death. Afilu echad berivo, even if it's a 1 to 1,000 ratio, yamusu. Ultimately, again, the kodesh animal is left to die. So the Gemara says, "V'kashla." I don't understand this case. My ka'amar. So I'll say. So what's interesting about this case is what it sounds like over here is you have one regular sacrificial animal that gets mixed up with 1,000 shahaniskals, right? Or shahas haniskal, shavarim haniskalim, right? Or you have one regular kodesh animal that gets mixed up with 1,000 chatos after we left to die. So the Bryce then tells me that what you can't, the animal is not batal. Teaching words, it doesn't make any sense. Of course, the animal is not batal. You have 1,000 prohibited animals and one permitted animal. So what's the shayla? To which the Gemara says, no. My kamar hachi katani nisarvu bahen mechatos mesos or shahaniskal afilu berivo yamusu. To which the Gemara says, no. What it means is like this, it's the opposite case. If you have 1,000 permitted sacrificial animals, but one shahaniskal or one chatos amesos gets mixed in, that prevents any of the animals from being used for sacrificial purposes. So we'll say, but again, the kasha of the Gemara is, we've already learned this concept before. Right? Remember again, the Gemara is quoting over here from Zvachim. So we already had this Mishnah in Zvachim. So if we already had the Mishnah in Zvachim, and the Mishnah in Zvachim teaches me that if I have a permitted sacrificial animal, which gets mixed up with prohibited sacrificial animals, the presence of prohibited sacrificial animals prevents my permitted animal from being offered, even if there's an overwhelming majority of permitted animals. So we already learned that once. Why does the Mishnah here feel the need to state it again? To which the Gemara says, "Itzrich, you need." I'll tell you why. Sagdait Chamina, I might have thought, Hasamhu da'asiri hana. So you say in the case in the Mishnah of Zvachim, we're talking about animals that are aser ba'ana, shahaniskal, chatos hamesos. Maybe that's why they prevent any bittul from occurring. Aval hachad delav isuri hana. But in our case over here of our Mishnah, where the animals mentioned, some of them at least, are not aser ba'ana, ema li batal beruba, I might have thought that bittul barov should work. Kamash malano. Kamash that even if the prohibited animals in question are not aser ba'ana, they still prevent bittul from occurring with sacrificial animals. Verova vinir vanami tanina. So both say, so again, we already learned how it's another kasha. What about the case of the animal that was sodomized or sodomized someone? So both say, so remember the Mishnah says that, for example, again, if this animal gets mixed in, even with a much larger group of permitted animals, it will preclude any member of the group from being offered up as a carbon. To which the Gemara says, we learned this already. Tanina, nisarvu rovea v'nirva. If an animal which was sodomized was mixed in together with other animals, yiru achi istavu, you have to let the whole flock graze until it develops a moon. Then v'machru, sell the flock, v'avi bidmei yafa shaban me'osamin, and you take the value of the most expensive animal in the flock and use that to purchase the necessary type of carbon. So already learned about rovea v'nirva as well. Amrav Kana, Amrise l'shmaite kameid Reb Sin bar Ashi, Amar li chad b'chulin v'chad b'kachim. In fact, two different cases. One is talking about a group of chulin, and one is talking about a group of kachim. Now, both say, now what does this mean? If you take a look at Rashi, it's Rashi in the shorter lines, 5 lines before it becomes wide. Chad b'chulin, masnisin, our Mishnah over here, masnisin dahacha mayri, binis arvu kishein chulin, v'achar kach hikdishan, v'hi dizvachim mayri dinis arvu kishein kachim Dasim Katani Kalazvachim. So we'll say, interestingly enough, our Mishnah is talking about where the prohibited animal got mixed in with a chulin group, and the chulin group was subsequently consecrated. The Mishnah in Zvachim is talking about a case where the prohibited animal, in this case the rova or the nirva, got mixed in with the group that was already sacrificial. Utzrichi. So you need both cases. Why? I both say the halacha is going to be the same, which is the presence of the prohibited animal does what? Right? Essentially precludes the rest of the group from being offered up as sacrificial animals. Why do I need both cases? Utzrichi. Diashmuinan gabe kadshim mishum demaisi. Because we'll say, if we would have just taught it to me in the case of kadshim, animals that already have sacrificial sanctity, I would have said, of course they can't be offered up, because lamaisa by kadshim it's repulsive. Aval gabe chulin emali batli, but maybe by chulin ultimately again bittul should work. Or bechulin nami tanina. Well, the truth is again we already learned this halacha by chulin as well. What's the chulin? The elu asurin va'osrin b'chol shein. Rabbi say, so the Mishnah says as follows: These are things that are asur and prohibit even in the smallest amount, which is another way of saying what? That these are items that are asur and are not batal, even if part of a much larger mixture. What are they? Yayin nesach, okay, idolatrous wine. V'avodas kochavim, idolatry. Tzipore misora birds. Oros livuvin. Let's remember back to our avodas zarah days. Oros livuvin means if you find a hide and there is like a circle or an incision right by where the heart of the animal was, ultimately, again, that's indicative that it's idolatry. Because Rashi points out apparently parts of there were some idolatrous services where they would just remove the heart of the animal. Interesting machlokas in the Gemara, would they remove the heart when the animal was still alive, or would they remove the heart when the animal was dead? Either way, lemais, again, it's an idolatrous practice, and therefore if you find a hide with that incision or that hole around the heart, you can't use it. Seir Nazir, the hair of a Nazir. Peter Chamar, firstborn donkey. Basar B'chalav, Shor HaNiskal, right, which is a shor ultimately again that is stoned, that is going to be killed because it killed someone. Egla Arufa, remember again, decapitated calf, find the body between two cities, not sure who killed the person. Elders of the closest city come, decapitate the calf. Chulin Shenishchetu Ba'azara, right, non-sacrificial animals that are shechted in the Beis HaMikdash. Sir Mishtaleach, the seer, that's the seer of Yom Kippur that's sent out to Azazel. What's the halacha? Hare'elu asurin va'osin b'chol shehin. We'll say all of these are items which what? All of these are items which asur, which are asur and asur in any amount. So we'll say, so what do you see from here? So we see that halacha l'maisa again, this brisa teaches us that these halachos apply even by chulin. So why do I need our Mishnah to teach me this halacha again? Tzrichi. To which the Gemara says you need both. Why? Says the Gemara, Di'ashmu inan hasam, Di'isuri hanadala batli, aval hacha li batli. So we'll say ultimately again, if it would have just said the case over there, I would have said the reason why it's not batal is because it's Isuri hana. But here, where it's not dealing with Isuri hana, should be batal. Di'ashmu inan hacha d'lagava demais. And if it would have just said over here, the reason it's not batal is because ultimately, again, we're talking about something that is going to be used for sacrificial purposes. Aval lehedyot, but I will say if it's just a mundane mixture, ema isuri hanali batla baruba, I would have said ultimately again that even items which are asr bana should be batla barov. Kamashon, that is not the case. So therefore, again, we're just covering. So the point that the Gemara is making over here is, although the principle that we are espousing in this Mishnah, namely, that if you have something that is usher to be offered up as a karban, if it gets mixed in with other animals, even if those animals initially at the time of the mixture are chulin and only subsequently become consecrated, the presence of the prohibited animal disqualifies the flock in its entirety. And even though technically we've learned these concepts in other places, each maram, each place where we're learning this halacha adds on an additional nuanced dimension. Verova, Venirva, Minala, the Asalagavas. So now the Gemara asks some technical questions. First in this list of animals which will preclude the mixture from being offered up on the Mizbeach is Rova Venirva, an animal that's sodomized or was sodomized. From where do I know that such an animal cannot be used as a karban? Right? Where do I know that from? The Temurah, so Gemara Brisa quotes, Mina Behema. So we'll say the pasuk when it comes to talk about karbanos says min habehema. Then we'll say min habehema literally means what? From amongst the animals, which is the drush over here is telling me what? Not every animal is fit for sacrificial service. What type of animal is being excluded? Lahotzi rova v'nirva. It comes to exclude the rova v'nirva. I valo dinu. So Gemara says about 1 second. I don't need a pasuk. I can make a kal v'chomer. What's the kal v'chomer? Uma balmum shlonis avda ba'avera pasal gab mizbeach. So when it comes to a balmum, right, the blemished animal. Now the blemished animal did not participate in any kind of ma'isa avera. Yet what? The animal is usher, cannot be offered up on the mizbeach. I'm sorry. I lost the place. Rova v'nirva shnevda b'an avera. So we'll say it's a good kal v'chomer. If a balmum which didn't do anything wrong is aser on the mizbeach, so certainly rova v'nirva, which did participate in an avera, ultimately again should be aser from going on the mizbeach. The kal v'chomer doesn't work. Chorish b'shar v'chamer yochiach. We'll say, what about a case where you plow with a chamor and a shar, right? A donkey and an ox. So we'll say prohibited act, right? You're not allowed to do that. So what's the halachah? It's avda ba'avera. So we'll say here's an example of where the shar participated in an avera. Yet what? Umutter legabim mizbeach. But ultimately, again, the halach is that what? That the animal is permitted on the mizbeach. To which the Gemara says, ma l'chorei. So we'll say, so you see from here that just because you committed an avera is not automatic grounds from disqualification from the mizbeach. I could show you a case. By the way, you hear the incredible mussar with this. Just because you commit an avera does not mean you are pasul on the mizbeach, right? Just because you do something wrong in life does not mean that you are pasul from coming close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The shar did an avera. He plowed together with the donkey. I will say a lot of times we're plowing and hanging out with the wrong people, right? And as a result of that, we hang out with the donkeys. And as a result, ultimately, we end up doing wrong things. Lest you think that disqualifies you from the mizbeach. Not true. So the Gemara says the Gemara, to which the Gemara says, I'm sorry. It's not a good comparison, because plowing with a donkey and an ox, as much as it is usher, nevertheless, what? You're not chayiv misa for it. Tamar berova v'nirva shechayav misa. Ultimately, I will say for rova v'nirva, there is a chayiv misa. Tolacha mashevesa. So the truth is, take away all of these arguments. Harishinis avda bahen avera b'shnei edim. All of this is talking about where there are witnesses to the avera, right? Ne'evda bahen avera pi eidechad, o pi abayla minolan minay. And I will say, how do I know? Let's say the animal committed this avera, rova v'nirva, but not in the presence of two witnesses, in the presence of an eidechad, or in the presence of the owners. From where do I know that it is still disqualified for the mizbeach? Amar Rabbi Shimon, ani dan. I can make a kal v'chomer. Uma balmum shein hasras shnei edim posalta me'achila. So we'll say a balmum, or ultimately again, so we'll say even if you have two witnesses who testify that the animal has a mum, nevertheless, that does not preclude the animal from consumption. In other words, we'll say you can't necessarily offer up the animal as a korban, but you can eat it. Hoda'as eid echad posalta me'akravaso. Yet again, one witness will preclude ultimately this animal from going and being offered up as a korban. But rova v'nirva, when it comes to rova and nirva, shaudas shnei edim posalta me'achila. Both say if you have two witnesses who come forward regarding an animal that it was rova or nirva, ultimately again you're not even allowed to shecht it for consumption purposes. Eino din shaudas eid echad posalta me'akrava. Certainly the testimony of one witness should passel it from being offered up as a korban. Talmud lomar min habehema lahotzi rova v'nirva. So both says, listen to this. Therefore, now the flow is a little bit strange. So the Gemara is advancing this kal v'chomer, which is like a pretty good kal v'chomer. Then the Gemara says, therefore, the pasuk says min habehema. What does min habehema teach me? That not all animals can be offered up. Which animals are being excluded? Lahotzi rova v'nirva. To which the Gemara says, I don't understand. Va'asya medina. What are you doing? We were just spending all of this time developing a kal v'chomer. We finally got to a kal v'chomer that works, and then suddenly, what do you say? Therefore, the pasuk says, Mina behema. Amud beis. Rav Ashi, I'll tell you why. Mishum di'ika lemeimar me'ikara dedina pircha. Rav Ashi says that's because as much as we appreciate, right, in A for effort with the Kal V'chomer, at the end of the day the Kal V'chomer is problematic. Why is it problematic? Mala ba'mum shekein mumo nikar tomar beroveh v'nirva she'ein mumo nikar. To which the Gemara says, you're comparing ba'mum to roveh and nirva. But here's the problem. They're not necessarily comparable. Ba'mum, the mum is recognizable. Rova v'nirva, ultimately, I will say, after the act is over, there's nothing recognizable in the animal. To which the Gemara says, and ultimately, again, since by Rova and Nirva, the mum is not Nikar, I might have thought that again, it should be kasha for the Mizech. And I will say, the problem with Baal Mum is that having a recognizable mum, by definition, we understand, is just not something nice to offer up on the Mizbeach. Rova Venirva does not share that quality. Something has happened to the animal, but ultimately, again, there's no visible impact on the animal. So therefore, the Kal V'chomer doesn't work. Talmud Lomar, Mina Behema Lahotzi Rova Venirva. Rabbi said that's why the Gemara, after espousing this entire Kal V'chomer, reverts back to the pasuk and says what? Therefore, the pasuk tells me, Mina Behema, to teach me that not all animals are fit to be offered up on the Mizbeach. What's being excluded? Rova v'nirva. Good. So we'll say, so now we've successfully proven that halacha l'maisa, an animal that is rova or nirva, cannot be offered up as a carbon. Good. Good. Now we go weiter. Mina bakar. What about from the phrase mina bakar? So also, you understand now what the Gemara is doing. Anytime you see the word min by definition means what? Some, but not all. Right? Mina bakar. There is some bakar that is offered, but not all bakar. So what is coming to be excluded from the cattle family? Or I should say, mina bakar, what is it coming to exclude? Lahotzias hane'evad. That is coming to exclude an animal that was worshipped for idolatry, or worshipped as idolatry, part of idolatry. Ne'evad. Valodinu. You want to say, one second, even without a pasuk, I can make a Kal V'chomer. So we'll say, you begin to see, by the way, whenever, we see this already throughout our journeys in Shas, it's always interesting to see that wherever the Gemara can learn something out through a logical argument, it prefers to do that rather than from a pasuk. So that's why even though the Gemara advances a pasuk, the Gemara says, but one second, I can learn this out from a Kal V'chomer. What's the Kal V'chomer? Valodinu, uma esnan umechir, shetzipuyan mutarin, hein asurin. When it comes to esnan is an animal that's given to a harlot as payment for her services. Mechir is an animal that is sold for a dog. Both of these animals cannot be offered up as a carbon. Yet, as much as they are aser, tzipuyan mutarin, any of their accessories, right, that they wear, that they have on their body, ultimately again are mutar. Uma esnan umechir shetzipuyan mutarin hein asurin. Even though the animals themselves are aser, the accessories are mutar. Ne'evad, an animal that is worshipped as idolatry. Shetzipuyav aser. Ultimately, again, I'm saying, if you have an animal that is worshipped as idolatry, we already saw in the Mishnah that what? Its accessories, right? Whatever it's wearing, right, is also aser. Einodin shehu aser. If the accessories are aser, then what? It goes without saying that the animal itself is certainly going to be aser as well. Ochiluf. Or maybe I can make the opposite argument. Uma esnan umechir shehin asurin tzipuyan mutarin. When it comes to esnan and mechir, even though the physical animals are aser, their accessories are mutar. Ne'evad shemutar yehi tzipuyav mutar. Then perhaps I would say that a ne'evad, which can be mutar, again we're going to discuss what this means, its accessories should be mutar as well. If that's the case, im kain bitalta lo sachmod kesef v'zav aleim ulekachta lecha. So we'll say, so remember again, here's the problem. The pasuk says, actually in next week's parasha, the pasuk says that speaking to the Jews who are coming into Canaan, do not covet the gold and the silver of the idolaters, and this is referring specifically to the gold and the silver of Avodah Zarah. Do not covet that gold and silver, idolaters, gold and silver, which belongs to the nations. If ultimately, again, the accessories of Avodah Zarah are going to be permitted, then what does this pasuk mean? What this pasuk seems to say is, Klal Yisrael, when you come into Eretz Canaan, do not take the gold and silver of the accessories of idolatry. If you're going to tell me now that the accessories of idolatry are permitted, then what does this pasuk mean? To which the Gemara says, "Aniya kaimeno lo sachmor kesav ezav v'davar she'in bo ruach chayim." I will say, where does that refer to? That refers to gold and silver not associated with living objects. So, for example, I will say what that would prohibit would be an idol made of gold and silver. The Avodah Zarah itself is the actual gold and silver. That's what you're not allowed to take. Aval b'davar she'yesh bo ruach chayim. But if the Avodah Zarah object is a living entity, like, for example, an animal that was worshipped, then what? Hoil vehein mutarin, yachol yehet sipui mutar. Since this animal could technically be permitted, therefore, again, the accessories should be permitted as well. To which the Gemara says, Talmud Lomar, min habakar lahotzias hanevad. Therefore, we'll say the pasuk says, no, min habakar, to teach me that. So again, it's the same thing kind of as before, which is we make an attempt at a kal v'chomer doesn't work. When the kal v'chomer doesn't work, then what ends up happening? We just simply revert back to the pasuk. Min habakar teaches me that what? That any animal worshipped as idolatry ultimately again is going to be asr. And I will say the corollary to that is, as the Mishnah said, not only is the animal asr, but what? The accessories on the animal are going to be asr as well. Maskifla Rav Chananya. Taima v'me'at yakra. The reason why an animal worshipped as idolatry, a ne'evad, is going to be asr is because the pasuk excludes it. Min habakar excludes ultimately again an animal worshipped as idolatry. Halo miatekra sipui mutter. Interestingly enough, had the pasuk not said something, then what? I would have said that maybe the animal is asr, but what? The sipui, the accessories, should be permitted. But how could that be? V'haksiv v'avaratem, navaratem v'ibaratem. V'ibaratem es shmam. Pasuk, when speaking about destruction of idolatry, says you have to literally go ahead and destroy its name. Kala asui lishmam. So says, so ultimately again, what that pasuk means is there is an obligation to destroy anything that is associated with idolatry, the idol itself, as well as what? As well as any accessory. So the Gemara says, how can you even have a havamina that the accessories of idolatry would be permitted? The pasuk says, "V'iparatem es shemam." You have to destroy the name of idolatry, which seems to indicate that's destroying everything associated with idolatry. We'll say on Chav Chesam on base 28b, right across from Tosfos Ne'evad, pretty much like middle of the page, right across Tosfos Ne'evad. To which Gemara says, no. V'iparatem es shemam is actually coming to teach me something different. It's actually very interesting. Hahu lechanos lahem shem hu da'asa. I will say v'ibaratim Shmuel is coming to teach me that halacha l'mais, when it comes to idolatry, you can call idolatry, and maybe you should call idolatry by some type of derogatory nicknames. Meaning what? Lebeis Galia. So we'll say, for example, there was an idolatry called Beis Galia. What should you call Beis Galia? Karinan also Beis Karya. We'll say Beis Karya means a bathroom. Right, so Beis Galia, you should call Beis Karya. Pnei Hamolech, Pnei Kelev. Right, the idolatry called Pnei Hamolech, you should call Pnei Kelev. Ein Kol, Ein Kotes. Right, so I will say the idolatry called Ein Kol, you should call it Ein Kotes. Go ahead and call it literally again the eye of the thorn. So I'll say, so the idea over here, this is a separate discussion, which in and of itself is interesting, about the notion of disparaging idolatry. You know, it's very it seems to, you see this in Chazal, that there is a need or there is a want to actively put down idolatry in order that it does not gain any type of chashivos in a person's eyes. So therefore, again, v'ibaratem as shemam, even the names of the idolatry, ultimately, again, should be said in more derogatory terms in order not to lend it any type of credence or chashivos. To which the Gemara says, "Ve'efoch ana." So now we have two drashas, right? We have two drashas. we have mina behema and mina bakar. So mina behema taught us that what? We exclude rova and nirva, right? An animal that's sodomized or was sodomized. And min ha-bakar comes to teach us that what? An animal that was used for idolatry, worship for idolatry, is asur. To which the Gemara says, Ve'ipochano. How do you know that each phrase teaches us what it teaches us? In other words, maybe we should switch it and we should say, min ha-behema lahotzias ha-ne'evan. Maybe min ha-behema teaches me that I can't use an animal worshipped for idolatry as a carbon. Min ha-bakar lahotzi rova v'nirva. Min ha-bakar teaches me, it comes to exclude rova and nirva. To which the Gemara says, no. Hasam me'inyana dikra. We'll say, in fact, the drushas are linked to the context of the psukim. Ksiv gabe behema v'ish ki yitin shechafto bebehema mos yumas. So we'll say, by behema, the Torah uses the lashon when the Torah discusses the prohibition of bestiality, it uses the lashon of behema. So because it discusses bestiality with behema, therefore mina behema comes to exclude what? An animal which participated or was involved in an act of sodomy. However, again, vishki de remus yumas gabe bakar ksiv vayamiru es kvodam betavnis shar ochal esev. And I will say by bakar, by shar, it speaks about idolatry. So we'll say, so essentially, again, we use each drasha to go ahead and exclude the animal from which context the animal is mentioned in. Wasn't good English, we should understand. So therefore, again, we'll say mina bakar, since bakar is mentioned in conjunction with idolatry. This is a pasuk over here the Gemara is quoting from Tehillim. So it's mentioned in conjunction. Therefore, mina bakar comes to exclude an animal that was worshipped for idolatry. Behema is the word used in the context of bestiality, and therefore mina behema comes to exclude an animal that was involved in an immoral act. Good. Minat so both say so just so you're following our drushes over here. So therefore now so far we've accomplished a lot in a little bit of time. Min ha-behema teaches me that I cannot use an animal that was involved in an act of immorality as a carbon. Min ha-bakar teaches me I cannot use an animal that was worshipped as idolatry. Not only can I not use that animal, but what? The accessories of that animal also become prohibited as well. And also remember again, the context that you're all learning about this is if any one of these animals gets mixed in with a larger group of sacrificially permitted animals, what happens? Puzzles the entire group. Good. Minatzon lahotzias hamuktzeh. So we'll say minatzon comes to teach me that halacha l'maisa I cannot use an animal. Muktzeh also means if it is set aside for idolatry. It's been designated for idolatrous purposes, but has not yet actively been worshipped. Nevertheless, such an animal will be usher as well for sacrificial purposes. Umin hatzon lahotzias hanogeach. So I'll say, see here there's two drashas in one. There's minatzon and uminhatzon. There's an extra vav in there. So we're dashing the phrase minatzon and we're dashing the extra vav. Minatzon comes to exclude muktzeh, and uminhatzon comes to exclude an animal that is a nogeach, a goring animal, right? So if you have an animal that ultimately, again, killed someone through goring, but let's say you can't put the animal to death. Why can't you put the animal to death? For example, there's only one aid. Eid echad. So you need two aidim even to put the animal to death. So such an animal cannot be used for sacrificial purposes either. Amar Reb Shimon, im ne'emar rovea lama ne'emar nogeach, ve'im ne'emar nogeach lama ne'emar rovea. So Reb Shimon says like this, I don't understand. If the Torah is teaching me that you can't use an animal that was involved in immorality, then why do I have to be taught that I can't use a goring animal? And if you're going to teach me that a goring animal can't be used as a carbon, why do I need to know about an immoral animal? And I'll tell you why. So ultimately, because there are elements that apply to the roveah, to the animal that engage in immorality, that do not apply to the nogeach. How so? Yesh beroveah, sharoveah osa onis kiratzon, mashein came in nogeach. So we'll see, interesting enough, when it comes to roveah, the immorality aspect, so whether the animal willingly engaged or was violated, either way the animal is prohibited. That's different than nogeach. See, Rabbi say, halacha l'maisa, if someone comes along and incites an animal, and as a result the animal kills the guy, that animal is not called a nogeach. Interesting halacha, right? Meaning, which makes sense. If you start up, and as a result get gored, that's not the animal's issue. That animal's an animal. That's your issue, and therefore that animal is not called an ogeach. So we'll say that's a fundamental distinction. Yesh ben ogeach. Furthermore, there's an element in ogeach that's different than rovea. How so? Shen ogeach mishalim es hakofer. Right? In ogeach, if an animal gores and kills someone, there's a kofer payment. Mashe'en kim berovea. There is no such payment. We'll say that exists ultimately again by rovea. Therefore, hutzrach lomar rovea, v'hutzrach lomar nogeach. Therefore, we'll say the Torah has to go ahead and exclude both of these categories independently. So this Tana learns that from a different place. This Sanya, harovea v'hanirva. So we'll say whether an animal that engaged in immorality, heim kikachim shekidim mum over lehekdeshan. They are like, we'll say, they're like animals that possess the mum prior to their sanctification. What happens if an animal possesses a mum prior to its sanctification, Rabbi Osai? Ultimately, again, it precludes the animal from being offered. And they require some type of permanent mum, ultimately, again, to redeem them. Shene'emar, ki mash chasam bahem mum bam. So we'll say, to which the Gemara says, my Talmuda, what are you talking about? We'll say, the drush the Gemara is trying to make is not clear. We'll say, this is what it means to say. Minayin shehin asurin. How do I know ultimately again that an animal that is a rova v'nirva, how do I know ultimately again that it's asur? Talmud lomar ki mash chasam bahem mum bam. So we'll say, so this is now another drasha. We just said beforehand that mina behema comes to exclude rova v'nirva. We now have a second opinion as to where we learn that rova v'nirva are asur. What's the pasuk from? Ki mashchasam bahem mumbam. Literally, again, their destruction, that's what literally means, is in them mumbam. Their mum is there. The Tanz Rabbi Shmuel, kamakom shneimar hashchasa eino ela dvar erva v'avodas kochavim. It will say wherever biblically you see the word hashchasa, destruction always refers to either what? Immorality or idolatry. So the Gemara says, Dvar Erva, Dechsev ki heshchis kol basar darko. So we'll say in Dvar Erva, we see this already in Bereshis. Right? In Bereshis, ultimately, we're speaking about the Dar HaMabul. The generation of the Fabaz says, God saw, ki heshchis kol basar darko. Right? Every living thing had destroyed its way. And we know that the chait of the Dar HaMabul was immorality. Avodas kochavim dechsev, Pentashchisun va'asisam lachem pensal temunas kol semel kol, right? Semel kol shamum posa bahen devar erva va'avodas kochavim poslan bahen. So what do we learn from here? Saying we learn from here the fact that the Torah equates mum with hashchasa, tells us that any time in an animal that a mum will prohibit, devar erva and avodah zarah will also bring. So we'll say the beauty of this drasha, by the way, is that this is one-stop carbonic invalidation shopping. In other words, what do I mean by that? We had two drashas beforehand. Kala behema, which precluded rova v'nirva, and kala bakar, which precluded ultimately again ne'evad, avodah zara. Now what the Gemara is suggesting is this pasuk of ki mashchasam bahem mum bam teaches me both halachas, essentially equating anything that is subject to ashchasa with mum. What's subject to ashchasa? Erva, thank you, erva, right? And avodah zara. Is that anything that ultimately again is prohibited because of mum, and the animal that's subject to halachas of mum will be subject to disqualification because of erva and avodah zara. But Tanur Rabbi Shmuel, and Tanur Rabbi Shmuel taught as follows: Mina behema. Mina behema, mina bakar, mina tzon, my dar shibu. So both say, so ultimately Rabbi Shmuel just uses this pasuk, right? He uses the pasuk ultimately kimash chasam bahem mumbam to teach me ultimately again about ne'avad and rova v'nirva. So what does he use mina bakar, mina tzon for? Mibayle prat lechola zakin umezuham. So we'll say he uses mina tzon and mina bakar to exclude what? An animal that is sick, an animal that is old, and an animal that has a bad odor. Right? If an animal has an odor issue, you cannot use it for a carbon. The Tanakama dafkinu lahani krela over v'nirva chola zakin umezumin alei. So we'll say the Tanakama who uses mina bakar, mina behema to teach me about rova v'nirva and ne'avad. Where does he learn out the disqualification of chola zakin and mezuham? Nafkele min hatzon umin hakvasim umin ha'izim. He learns at Rabbi from these extra phrases, minatzon, minakvasim, mina'izim. He uses that to teach me the exclusions of chola, zakin, and mezuam. Ulatana be Rabbi Shmuel. And according to Rabbi Shmuel, so who doesn't need these drushes? So what does he use them for? Orchei dekra l'shtayahachi. So Rabbi Shmuel will say the Torah is just talking in its regular way. There's no drusha to be made. Minatzon, minakvasu, mina'izim. That's almost just like dibra Torah kalosh b'nei adam. Torah is just phrasing it in a normative way. So I'll say, so bottom line, halach l'maaseh, here's the good news. Everyone agrees, right? Our conclusions are that ultimately we learn out that you cannot use an animal that was worshipped as avodah zarah. You cannot use an animal that was involved in an act of immorality. These animals cannot be used for avodah zarah purposes. Furthermore, you cannot use an animal that is sick, chola, that is zaken, that is old, and that is mezum, that is smelly. Right? The only machlokes that apply is where you learn this out from. And we have multiple possibilities. Mina bakar, mina behema, minatzon, min hatzon, and now this last drasha of Tana Debei Rabbi Shmuel, kimash chasam bahem mum bam. Good, so stop over here, share with you a short idea on the parasha. So Rabbi said we have the great Schostis Shabbos, the Parashas V'aschanon, and Shabbos Nachamu, and as much as for us, we focus on the Nechama, especially again of the words of Yeshav, Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami. So amazingly enough, Parashas V'aschanon, certainly the beginning of it, is a truly heartbreaking parsha, because our heartbreaking section, because here you have Moshe Rabbeinu, right, asking once again to go into Eretz Yisrael, and the request being denied, and not just being denied, but the door being slammed on Moshe Rabbeinu with a resounding thud. And I ask Kadosh Baruch Hu one more time, and the Rebbeinu Shalom says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Ravlach, you have enough. Al Tosef Dabra Ela Elba Davar Azeh. Don't talk to me anymore about this. We're done. So I want to draw your attention to the wording of Moshe Rabbeinu's request. So Moshe Rabbeinu, after he davens, V'aschanan al Hashem ba'isa hilemor, right? He praises HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then he has a simple request. What's the request? This is in Parak Gimel Pasuk Chafei, chapter 3, verse 25. Ebrana, let me go over, let me cross over. Ve'er'a es ha'aretz ha'tova, and let me see the good land. Asher be'ivar Yarden, that's on the other side of the Jordan River. Ha'hara tova zeh v'ha'levanon, the good mountain, the Levanon, good. So the Kotzker, Rabbi Nachman of Kotzk, makes an incredible observation. He says, Moshe Rabbeinu asks, Moshe hispalo, sheyiske liros es ha'aretz. So Moshe Rabbeinu asks, ve'er'a es ha'aretz ha'tova, let me go and see the good land. The good land. Why don't you just, we know what land you're talking about, you know the beauty of Eretz Yisrael. Why do you have to say ha'aretz ha'tova? So the Kotzker says something amazing. He says Moshe Rabbeinu's tefillah was, sheyiske liros es ha'aretz mitzida hatov. Es ha'aretz hatova, v'lo ki Moshe ra'u osa hameraglim. Moshe Rabbeinu's tefillah, says the Kotzker, was something absolutely amazing. It was a two-pronged prayer. Part number one was Ebrana, let me go in. Let me go in. But even once in the Chashorach, if you let me go in, I need another bracha. I need another bracha. What's the other bracha? Ve'er'eh es ha'aretz hatova. Allow me to see the goodness of the land. Allow me to see the goodness of the land, because there are other people who went to see the land as well. And when they went to see the land, what happened? What happened? They saw all that was negative in the land. Also, remember again, we always speak about this. The Meraglim did not make up one fact. They did not invent one piece of information. What was skewed about the Meraglim's report was their perspective. Says Moshe Rabbeinu, let me go into the land. That's part one of the request. Ebrana, ve'er'eh es ha'aretz hatova. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I need you to give me something else. I need you to give me the blessing of perspective. I need you to allow me to see the land in its goodness. Because in life, it is so easy to see the negative aspects in things. In life, it is so easy to see that which is broken, that which is beyond salvation, that which is in a state of disrepair. And therefore, ultimately, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I need you to give me the bracha of an ayin tova. I need you to allow me not just to go into the land, but to see the good in the land. So says the Kotzker, Moshe Rabbeinu is traveling to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for help in perspective. See, at the end of the day, two people can see the same exact thing, and depending on your orientation, depending on your perspective, You see something different. We'll say we know this. There are some people who see the brokenness in everything, right? Not just that the glass is half full, but the glass, it could be a little bit cleaner, right? Somebody could have done a better job cleaning the glass, right? The water, is that sparkling? I don't know. It's not sparkling. Could have been sparkling water. Could have been triple filtered water, right? There are people who look at other people and they're able to summarize amazingly enough what their faults are. There are people who receive beautiful blessings and instead of focusing on the blessings they have, could tell you every single thing that's wrong with those blessings. And they go through life unhappy and they go through life feeling aggrieved, feeling wronged. And Moshe Rabbeinu says to Kadosh Baruch Hu, I don't want to be that kind of person. I don't want to be that kind of person. I want to be the kind of person. Moshe Rabbeinu says, and this is incredible, you see, we think that the problems with Eretz Yisrael today are a function of the Medina, right? Eretz Yisrael is perfect, but we have an imperfect state. By the way, this is not a political commentary, right? This is just, it's not true. Eretz Yisrael, there's a famous story of Rav Kook, Zichar Tzadik Livracha, very quickly. Rav Kook used to encourage people, business people from Europe to come and to move their businesses. So one time a very wealthy businessman had done a tour of Eretz Yisrael setting up factories. So he came to Rav Kook after his trip. Rav Kook says, what do you think? So the man says, I'm going to be honest with you. Warsaw is a lot nicer. Meaning there's garbage on the streets. Apparently there were garbage strikes back then, right? And right? I don't know. I kind of had this thought that it was going to look a little bit different. Rav Kook said, Eretz Yisrael is a reflection of you. If there's garbage littering your soul, then you see the garbage littering the streets. But if at the end of the day there's beauty, spiritual beauty inside of you, you'll see the beauty all around you as well. Life is all a matter of perspective. In any given situation and in any given person, there are things that are broken, there are things that are beautiful. What is your eye drawn towards? What do you focus on? What is your orientation? And it's a conscious decision we have to make. Nothing in life is perfect. No situation in life is perfect. No individual is perfect. And I will say this has ramifications on every single level. In your marriage, in Shalom Bayis, I will say how many Shalom Bayis problems are caused because spouses choose to focus on that which is broken in their significant other instead of all the stuff that's great. How many parents are falling out with their children because at the end of the day they focus on that which is broken in the kid and not that which is great? How many people have difficulty forging meaningful relationships because everyone's wronged me? Everyone's okay, that's human beings. Human beings do stuff wrong. I choose not. I focus on that. I focus on the grievances and not on the good. So says Moshe Rabbeinu HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I need your help. I need your help. Ebrana, number one, let me in. Give me the blessing of proper perspective. Help me see the good in the land. Help me see the good in the other. Help me see the good in the world. Help me see the good in the situations. Because it is so easy to be drawn to that which is negative. And amazingly enough, with this I'll conclude. The Kotzker says, he goes on, he says, this is the meaning of the Pasuk in Mishlei. What does the Pasuk in Mishlei say? Al tihi chacham be'einecha. So ultimately, again, we normally translate this phrase, don't be so wise in your own eyes, which we normally translate to mean, don't think you're so smart. That's what Shlomo Alcini is saying. Don't think you are such a chacham. The Kotzker says it means something a little bit different. Chalila lecha lios chacham rak be'inecha b'ma she'ata roa be'inecha. Don't allow your wisdom to be based just on what you see immediately. Sometimes we do an ocular intake, right? And suddenly I have everything figured out. I know the whole thing. Alti chacham be'inecha. Sometimes there's more to life than what you see. There's more to others than what you see. Because you only see a little bit of a view. But there's a much greater depth to people. There's a much greater situational depth. Sometimes you have to be humble enough to realize that what you see is not just what is. There's more to it. And says the Kotzker, this is the beauty. He says, Ki ha'inayim v'achushim afhim yecholim litos. Your eyes, your senses, could sometimes be mistaken. And sometimes what you see, there's much more to the reality than just what you take in with your eyes and what you take in with your senses. This was the request of Moshe Rabbeinu. Ve'er'ah es ha'aretz hatova. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, give me the strength to see the good. The natural default of people is sometimes to see that which is negative and that which is broken in others and in situations. You need divine assistance to live a life of Er'eh es ha'aretz hatova. Moshe Rabbeinu was zocha, not zocha to enter into the land, but zocha to see the beauty in the land. Maybe be zocha Rabbi Hashem to find this same bracha of perspective as well. Shabbos.